It's 7 p.m. This is the Londonderry Town Council meeting for Monday, April 21st, 2025. Everyone, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is we have a proclamation for National Small Business Week. And Sean, would you read it, please?
So in honor of 2025 National Small Business Week, whereas small businesses are the heart of our country's economy, serving as the engine for innovation and invention that drives technological advancement, builds our nation's infrastructure, credits opportunities for those in our community, provides valuable services to Londonderry's residents, and enriches the fabric of our town. And whereas small businesses employ more than half of American workers, including thousands of residents in the town of Londonderry. And whereas the town of Londonderry admires, respects, and supports the role of small businesses in helping Londonderry to thrive. And then whereas in 2025, the town of Londonderry takes particular pride in Londonderry entrepreneur Dr. Tanya Lawson of In Bloom Health and Medispa, who was selected as 2025's New Hampshire Small Business Person of the Year by U.S. Small Business Administration in recognition of her exceptional leadership, innovation, and contributions to our community. And whereas National Small Business Week has been proclaimed by the President of the United States since 1963, honoring the vital role of small businesses to create jobs, growing the economy, and anchoring our communities. And whereas the town of Londonderry joins in this national effort to recognize the contributions of small businesses to the American economy and our own community, celebrating their importance in preserving the vibrance of Londonderry now and in the future. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed by the Londonderry Town Council that May 4th through 10th, 2025 is National Small Business Week, and all citizens are encouraged to support small businesses and celebrate their many achievements.
Thank you. I'll open public comment. And the fire department had a committee of merit unit citation.
Thank you very much. Councilman and women, welcome. So, last year, December 23rd, 2023, we had a motor vehicle accident that occurred in South Mammoth Road. And the result of the accident is the car went into the stream, that river there, which surprisingly is pretty fast. As a result of the actions of our crews, their peers, as part of the New Hampshire Committee of Merit, recognized their efforts in that rescue. And fortunately, the person that was involved did well, and as a result, our people did a great job. So I would just like to recognize them. I'll show you the plaque. I'll pass it around to you guys, and just another example of what the Londonderry Fire Department does each and every day. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Open up public comment.
Christine Perez, 5 Leslie Drive. A new committee was formed at the State House this year, a housing committee, because of the not enough housing. People were complaining. And they had 33 bills that came before them. Many of them were retained, which means they're going to be studied further. But many of them were not. And the Senate also had multiple housing bills that ended up being, for the most part, zoning bills. And first of all, let me say, I am not a NIMBY. I am not a NIMBY in spite of what people think. But we do have, I think, 1,400 new units being built in this town at this time. But I had some bills. I went to hearings on some of these bills last week, and there's several that really concern me. Senate Bill 84, it's relative to zoning procedures and concerning residential housing. My argument against this is that New Hampshire is a very vast community, And what might be good for a town of 50 or 500 is not good for a town of 28,000. I'm concerned that taking the local control away from the town with these zoning bills is going to be detrimental to us. My argument on this, when I was talking about Senate Bill 84, I was told by the head of the committee, well, are you aware? This restricts the size of lots. Are you aware of the fact that Londonderry already does this? And I said, yes, I am. But the problem is, if you make it a state law, then if Londonderry wants to change it, you have tied their hands and they cannot change it. The second bill I spoke on was Senate Bill 163. Very scary. It is prohibiting the local towns, municipalities, from having a moratorium, restricting the town from deciding to have a moratorium. That would be a law. That would really hurt towns that really need to take a step back and look. I know that the planning board talked about a moratorium a bit ago. Unfortunately, nothing happened to it. Anyway, that's the other one. There were many other ones that came through, but there were 5 specifically. Senate Bills 84, 163, 281. It changes the construction allowance. These are bills that are going to take the town's hands, the zoning departments, the planning departments, and take control away from them. And it's not going to come back unless the law is changed. So I ask you to please do whatever you can to call, to write in, to put your views online, ask people to do this, because we cannot allow these bills to go forward. One of the bills was as silly as you only needed one stairway in a residential building between 6 and 4 floors above grade, only one stairway. For Pete's sake, every fire department in the state was about to come out and talk against this. These are not common sense bills. These are control bills, and I ask you to help me make sure that these don't make it to the governor's desk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you sit down, Christine, could you give the email address that people can go to, or the website where they... Can you give the email address or the website in which people can send their,
Right.
how they feel about it?
If you go to GenCourt,
I'm sorry?
GenCourt, GenCourt.org, right? You can look up the bill, and then you'll be able to comment on the bill. You see when the hearings are coming for it. These bills made it through the Senate. Unfortunately, only one of them was roll called. That was the first one. So you can't even tell who voted for these bills and who didn't vote for it, except for the first one. And they went from the Senate, they went to the Housing Committee. That's where I went and spoke. I talked to the head of the Housing Committee, Joe Alexander, on Friday, because I thought they were going to be exec on Friday to see if they made it through the Housing Committee, but they were not done on Friday. So I will keep you up to date as to what happens. Specifically, a lot of the bills that came before the House were put on the consent calendars, so we didn't even get an opportunity to vote for or against them, unfortunately. But I'll try to keep you posted.
And when would people have to have their letters in by?
Well, it's not a letter. You can just say I'm for or against and make a comment ASAP.
Well,
because
I mean, when are they going to, when
I
is the
don't know.
deadline?
I don't know. They could be exec as soon as tomorrow. They could be exec next week.
All right,
They
so the
can
sooner
call.
the better, right?
Sooner the better.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Good evening, Tom Esty, lifelong resident. Really don't want to be here, but I just want to come up and talk about. I think you guys are talking about Gilchrist Road tonight. Is that correct? Okay. So when you guys hear conservation easement What do you guys think of when you hear the word land conservation easement? What do you think of? I'd like to hear from each and every one of you.
For me, it means that the land will be taken off the books for building and conserved for conservation
And never developed?
and never developed. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is that it's not going to be developed. It's going to be protected by conservation.
Be conservation, Tom.
Yeah, in conservation.
Obviously, it would be conservation. I mean, that piece of property had gone to the voters to be voted upon to be turned out of conservation.
So when this deal was done back in the day, and Mr. Dolan's here, and he can probably explain it better, but I don't think it was really explained to the people of this town properly back in the day, period. So now that we sold it back to the original landowner so we can build whatever beautiful condos, which we need more of in this town, why do you think that the conservation, that the money that they got when the landowner paid it back, do you think, where do you think that the money should go to?
Tom, we're going to be discussing that during the discussion.
Well, I just want to hear from each person where. So
we'll each
it's
give our-
roughly like $2 million. Is that
Yeah.
correct? That
we'll
the
each
land-
give our opinion during the public because it's going to be
Well,
discussed.
I'm not going to be here, so I would just. After this, I'm going to leave, but I would just like to hear from each and every one of you where you think the money should go to.
I just think it's appropriate to do it at that time because we have it on the agenda.
Well, I would like to personally hear it from each and every one of you because I'm a taxpayer and I want to hear it from you, starting with Deb.
Okay. Tom,
Got to direct it to the chair.
Tom, we're going to do it on the agenda tonight. I promise you, we're all going to talk about it. Can we just do it in the
I think what
order?
Ron wants to say is that by us giving you our opinion on this subject matter before the discussion is,
Yep.
we would be telling people what that our minds are already made up before we hear all the information.
Yeah.
So that would make us have to recuse ourselves from the vote, if there is a vote, or anything at that time. So it's basically we have to wait to hear the discussion before we can say what our minds are thinking one way or another. And I appreciate the fact that you want to know this, because I would want to know too. Unfortunately, I believe that Ron is correct, that we have to wait until we go into that and hear everything. That would be the appropriate time to give an opinion after we get all the information
Okay.
in front of us.
So as a taxpayer, I think when it was conservation easement, that if it was conservation, the money should, all of it go back to conservation. Should the town get a chunk? No, absolutely not. I think personally, the conservation, if you give a little bit, if you give most of it to the town, the conservation gets a little bit, conservation's getting screwed. And so aren't the people of this town. All of the money should go to conservation, period. So it can buy more land in town. The second point I wanted to ask Ted was at the last town council meeting, you were talking about the 5 acres that was near the Grange or behind the Grange that
So, Tom, just address the chair, please.
that you wanted to do something with. What were your thoughts on what you would like to do with the 5 acres?
Okay. Do you want to discuss that, or do you want to? It's up to you, Ted. Do you want to?
Yes, because many people have taken what I had said out of context completely. That people had said online, many other places, that I was going to build a parking lot, which is completely not what I had said. I said I was looking at what we can use it for, potentially for recreation. And that's what I was looking at. If there may be a parking lot that needs to go with it because people may need to park to use a recreational space, then that would also have to happen for safety's sake. So not looking to just demolish to demolish. I was looking to actually use space that is in town property for recreational use.
I mean, personally, I think it's a beautiful piece of land. I don't think it should ever be touched. That's just my point of view. But if you wanted to do something, what you're talking about, Gilchrist Road would have been the perfect spot. there was all that land there, but we decided we had to sell it back to the builder, which should have been put into, I don't know, community garden, dog park, or whatever, something for the town. But we thought it was more important that we put in condominiums there. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else in public comment? A second time, Christine? You already spoke for almost 5 minutes, so is it quick? All right.
Thank you. Christine Perez, 5 Wesley Drive. It's my understanding that on the 24th, there's going to be a meeting with the planning board and the town council, which I think is a really great idea. And I know they're going to have town comment at that, but of course limited to exactly what you're talking about. But I just want to encourage people to go or reach out to either board, and perhaps it might be appropriate. It's my understanding that the zoning board hasn't been invited. Other boards have been invited, but it might be a good idea for some of them to probably reach out and come to hear what's going on for the continuity.
All right, thank you, Christine. Anybody else in public comment? How are you, sir?
Fine, how are you?
Good.
Bear with me a second.
Oh, yeah.
I just have a couple of things I'd like to address. Just give me a second to get organized. Good evening, John Farrell, 4 Hancock Drive. A couple of things I'd like to address. As someone who worked over 20 elections, I want to talk a little bit about the behavior that happened outside at the polls in this recent election. Regardless of the outcome, I want to talk a little bit about the behavior. During the election, while my children were outside, and they are adult children, a gentleman came up and he decided he had to give my children the middle finger and had to do it twice. While I was over at Peabody's, another gentleman came up, maybe I shouldn't call this person a gentleman, and decided to discuss my recent health scares and everything with my children and how he felt maybe I should recognize of that. I won't get into the derogatory comments that were made. But something just to keep in mind, with someone who worked over 20 elections, never happened before. Town council meetings. I hope you all know town council meetings are legal proceedings. They're quasi-judicial. When you're going to change the rules, change the rules. But if you're going to change the rules and you're going to cite the city of Nashua and say that they don't allow allow profanity or vulgarity, I can tell you that I have their ordinance right here from 2023, and profanity, etc., is prohibited. As a matter of fact, I couldn't find it where it's allowed in any place in the state, except maybe here. Next item I'd like to address is something that happened to me while I was on the council by State Representative Perez. She filed a police charge against me. I have the police report here. This was a false charge that was filed against me. There was a witness to this, which amazingly heard nothing the night that it happened. But much like a Southwest airline flight, when they all get on with their wheelchairs and then everybody walks off, a miracle happened. 30 days later, her statement was exactly the same as State Representative Perez. But the police dismissed this because it was obvious it was a false report and there was misinformation being given. With that, I filed an ethics complaint against State Representative Perez. It was very much everywhere you could look about my behavior, which didn't happen according to police ethics reports. So I took it all to the state. And here's the result, since the result never came out in public, because you should know about the people that you elect. Dear Mr. Farrell, dated October 2nd, 2024. At its meeting, that's September 16, 2024, the Legislative Ethics Committee continued its initial review of the complaint of 2024-6. Would you allege that the New Hampshire State Representative Christine Perez violated the Ethics Guidelines, Section 1, Principles of Public Service, her conduct before the Londonderry School Board and Londonderry Town Council meetings, where she has demonstrated her behavior using her office to influence and threaten others with false accusations. Our review consisted of the submitted complaint, accompanying material, with a written response from Representative Perez, the additional material you submitted, and the testimony we received at the meeting. Following is the review. The committee should understand why, following its review, the committee could understand why Representative Perez could be perceived as aggressive and offensive by you and other town officials and members of the public. But the committee has applied objective standards set forth by the legislator, determining whether or not a legislator has violated a specific law, rule, or guideline. While Representative Perez's behavior may not be becoming of a legislator, she has the right as any citizen to interface with the question of governmental officials. Having considered the evidence, the committee could not find Representative Perez's behavior constituted of violations of the ethics guidelines or applicable statutes established by the general court according to the committee, and voted to dismiss the complaint. And that is signed by Edward Gordon, the chairman. My point is that, yeah, people can come up and say whatever they want to say to my children. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it right that your behavior is that is, as I quote here, unbecoming. We all need to rise to a higher level. Gentlemen and Ms. Paul, you are all fiduciaries of over $100 million. Londonderry likes to lead the way and put itself on a pedestal. But just because you're the loudest doesn't mean you're right or that you're the most. But what you need to do is do your due diligence. Dig into the facts. Get the information. And don't trust everything you hear in the public. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else with public comment? Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kevin Smith, 6 King Philip Drive. I just wanted to come up and speak tonight because there's been a lot of chatter in town about how Londonderry is going through some unprecedented growth and can we handle it and whatnot. And believe it or not, I'm old enough to remember when Londonderry was experiencing a real boom in town. And I just wanted to take the council on a little walk down memory lane to put this in somewhat perspective here. So between the 1950s and 1960s, and I'm not that old, Londonderry experienced a population growth of 50% during that time. Between 1960 and 1970, that went up to 118% growth. And of course, that's when I-93 was completed in the early 1960s. Between 1970 and 1980, population growth went up 154%. In fact, that's when my in-laws moved into town, and their realtor at the time told them Londonderry's population in 20 years will be 50,000. Between 1980 and 1990, rate of growth goes down a little bit, but still a lot, 46% it goes up. Between 1990 and 2000, it starts dropping a little bit more, but it's still going up by 18%. And then 2000 to 2010, it drops off to 4%. And you say, well, what the heck happened during that time? Well, a number of things happened. Number one, in the late 90s, early 2000s, towns started buying large swaths of conservation land and conservation easements. The town put overlay districts along Route 102 and Route 28 to discourage growth along those corridors. There was a growth management ordinance enacted at that time so that the town facilities could catch up with the population growth, and the town enacted its 55-plus housing ordinance because the thought was bring in a lot of senior citizens and they don't bring kids into town. And guess what? It had its desired effect. Population growth was 4%. At the same time, the school population numbers had exploded during that time. So we built a new gym at the high school. We built new gyms at North School. We built new gyms at South School. We put an addition onto the junior high, made it a middle school. We built the kindergarten, introduced half-day kindergarten. In fact, as a state representative for the town, I served on the original kindergarten committee and was part of that building committee. 2010 to 2020, we come out of the Great Recession. Economy starting to tick up a little bit. Population growth goes up a little, but not a lot. Only 7% during that time. And now between 2020 and the latest census numbers for this year, we're growing at, ready for this, 3.4%. It's the lowest rate of growth since the 1920s for this town. So in conclusion, here's my concern. My concern is not that Londonderry can't handle the population growth. We can. We're more than equipped to handle it. My concern is this. Number one, Since we built all those facilities at the schools, the school population is in a free fall, and it has been for 25 years. We're down 1,900 students, and that's including the Hooksett students and the LEAP students, which we didn't count 20 years ago. Number 2, we're an aging town and an aging state. And number 3, young people cannot afford to buy a home here or in southern New Hampshire. And yet we have people saying we don't need any more affordable housing. My concern is that without regeneration in this town, without more families moving in, the burden is falling on our seniors and our soon-to-be seniors. The demand for housing stays high. That pushes up everyone's valuation, which pushes up assessments, which pushes up everyone's taxes. That is not a sustainable model. Saying no to growth is not the answer. Letting it be a free-for-all is not the answer either. But we have to find a balance in the middle of there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else in public comment? Ray?
Ray Person, 3 Gary Drive. I got here a little late, but there's something on here about the sewer ordinance. Are you going to allow public comment when that comes up, or should I speak on it now?
You should speak on it now.
Okay. So apparently sewer ordinance charge is going to be changed, it's going to be dropped from 16.51 per gallon to 12.24 per gallon. As you may or may not know, I'm on the Sewer and Solid Waste Committee, and this is the first I've heard of this. I think it would be kind of nice if some of these things were brought forward to our committees so we can at least review this and have an opinion on it. I would have to wonder, number one, why somebody thinks it's reasonable to drop the rate. Maybe that's a good idea. I don't know. But when we're talking about a sewer extension for Pillsbury, it's going to go along. I'm sorry. Did I say Pillsbury? Let's say Woodmont. That's going to go along Pillsbury, Hardy Road, and to pump their sewerage to Manchester, and this is going to have quite an impact on the town. And we need to really look at some of these things before we make plans. So I would appreciate being included in the discussion. I don't know if you're going to vote on this. You're going to approve this evening? Is that the intent?
It's the first reading.
Yeah.
First reading?
First reading.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for allowing
Thank you,
me to
Ray.
speak.
No, thank you. Sir?
My name is Ken Lynch, 194 Mammoth Road. I'm a retired police officer in the town of Londonderry. I've been retired almost 30 years now, but I've been asked to come to the head for support Danny. I guess he has requests about looking at the buses coming in and out of Sanborn Road on 28. In the past, where the police department was a lot smaller than it is today, we used to do surveys of traffic counts and everything for Mammoth Road and 128, Pillsbury Road and 128. Then we also did one on Shasta at the request of the parents when the Shasta was put completely through. We did one at 128 and Sanborn Road with South School. We had a crossing guard hit by a car doing traffic, so we put a traffic study up there. Even with a small police department, we always had time to send a police officer, whether we did fake radar checks or whatever, but counting cars, so we can find out what the problem is and how we can best help it. So if there's a problem with buses leaving Sanborn Road and 128, Route 28, I think it behooves us to have a police officer sit there just during the specific times that the buses are leaving, because God forbid one of those buses get hit and some kids get injured. So I can tell you right now, we've done many a study. Like I said, over 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the department was a lot smaller. But I even sat at Shasta for the traffic study. So if we can, I would say we get as many police officers to rotate that area as we can during the week and do a study and find out over a month, because it's going to be the end of school right now, but get it studied now so maybe next year when school starts again, you can support by getting a police officer there every single day during the dismissal hours. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. How are
Hi,
you?
good evening. Jonathan Noble, 10 Noyes Road, Londonderry. As a parent, as what was just discussed with regards to North School and the traffic, I'd like to express my concern for my children's safety who attend that school. I have witnessed it firsthand, both not only the buses, but also those parents that are transporting children out of that location. There is a light that is already there that many are aware of for the rail trail that allows traffic to stop. We also have resource officers that are in our school systems. So if we were to utilize, those resources that are already there, as far as the lights and the resource officers and stopping traffic to allow the buses out, I think that this would be advantageous for the safety of our children. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Anybody else with public comment?
Hi, I'm Sarah Bernier. I'm at 5 Bartley Hill Road. I'm also here tonight to support the Sandboard Road issue with the traffic. My son, my eldest, goes to North School right now, and I have another son right behind him who will also be attending North School. I have also witnessed that intersection being incredibly dangerous, partly because the sign there says stop on red, and nobody seems to know what to do on a blinking red. And so everyone has a little bit of a free-for-all at that intersection when it's now blinking. We have pedestrians attempting to cross, we have cars attempting to turn, and we have people rolling through. And so it is incredibly dangerous. I would like to add, too, that not only do I support having a police officer there at dismissal, but my son participates in after-school activities, which also has quite a few amount of children and traffic coming through, even into the evening hours, 4 or 5 p.m. So I would like to support that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none. Dave, you wanted to speak last, so I'll let you speak. Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. At the last town council meeting, there were some concerns brought up in regards to litter. And so I thought it was appropriate that I'd come before the board, at least give you some of my thoughts in regards to that concern, especially in the way that it was kind of delivered. I took a little bit of issue with, the way it was explained that there's 5 DPW workers doing nothing at the transfer station, and we can dedicate an entire month to picking litter. I understand the concern about litter, and it is a terrible nuisance to the public and a big safety concern in some regards, depending on what is thrown on the side of the road. I'll address just the drop-off center first. However, I just want to make it clear that that is managed and overseen by the Engineering and Environmental Services Department, but we do have some of our employees that work there with the part-timers that are down there. So I know a little bit enough to be dangerous, but I don't want to be held completely accountable for what goes on down there. But if you want to get into that a little bit deeper, we can get the people to talk to you about that. But there are only 4 employees that work there, not 5. As far as I know, there never has been. 2 of them are part-timers, and soon to be hopefully a third one. They've been trying for a few years now, actually, to get a third member to work there as well. But due to the pay and the hours, it hasn't been attainable. And one of the DPW workers that is there does run the backhoe to compact the trailers down so we can get as much material in as possible. Without doing that, we're kind of basically hauling air, and we would need more trailers to be down there because they get quite full on real busy days. It's a 9-hour day. There's no running water. There's no electricity. There's no lunch or no lunch breaks. They're there on the property the entire 9 hours, not able to leave. The DPW guys, anyway, already work a 45-hour work week, and that puts them at 57 hours a week when they work the Wednesday evening and the Saturday for 9 hours, which we had 2 gentlemen do this past week. So as you can imagine, they're a little bit tired when they're down there, but nonetheless, they have a job to do. This weekend, they took in 295 tickets this past Saturday. That's just processing things that they got to pay for. So there were much more vehicles than that because you got people bringing down the things that they don't need to pay for, like brush and recyclables and whatnot, yard waste. So again, there's no water, there's no AC. They're battling the elements as it is working down there. And it's really not the best work environment, but it is what it is. So they do the best they can to stay up with what has to be done. Sometimes they're even cutting wood and putting it in the potbelly stove down there to stay warm. I mean, that's legit. So is there downtime? Of course there is. There's times when it's slow. If you prefer to scale back on hours, that's something that you'll need to take up with staff through the town manager's office. I've heard preferably that there's more hours should be added down there, or even another additional day. Again, that's another thing that could be considered. But I can assure you that 5 guys standing around all day is not an adequate description of what those gentlemen are doing when they're down there. A little bit of history on litter itself. In 2017, we had an article that came before the voters, Article 23, as a matter of fact, which they had done kind of a study, if you will. The department, again, was receiving a lot of criticism that they weren't doing it. And so at the time then, the Director of Public Works and Engineering took a look at this. It was actually brought forward by a concerned citizen, and it was a citizen's petition. And originally was floated $100,000 put towards picking the main artery roads of town, the collector roads, if you will, from November through March. It did not pass. In fact, it only received a 46% approval rate. And the DPW has never had the ability to provide this service. So it's not a service that we've ever provided to begin with. We have a gentleman that's been there over 4 decades now, and to his recollection, we've never gone out there and actually picked the litter. Now, I'll get to what we do to support it. In the 80s, too, there were the prisoners that were used. A lot of communities were doing that. In today's world, that doesn't happen. It's very problematic. There's too much logistics involved in it and a lot of liability. So our department ourselves, there's 13 positions. We currently have 1 vacancy and 1 person on deployment. So that leaves us down with 11. I only have 1 foreman. That brings us down to 10. So potentially we could have 5 teams, I guess, out there of 2 picking litter and what have you. But again, I remind you, we just came off winter. Guys have all been, sticking around and not going too far away from the turf. So now they're taking vacations and what have you, and taking other types of time off to do doctor's appointments and whatnot and tend to their families. So the fluctuation of our staff is a little not exactly static these days. So. And again, there's 372 lane miles in town. Roughly half of that, about or so, is the collector roads, and that is no state DOT roads. I've lived on a state DOT road myself for 26 years. Never seen anybody out there picking either. Now, that's not a knock on the DOT. I understand what their limitations are, too. And it really is not that we don't want to do it. It's just that we can't. If you want to provide us additional resources or whatnot, we can certainly talk about that and what it might take. But honestly, if we were given, I could stand here and read on a whole list of things that I think if we had additional resources of manpower and whatnot to our department that we would work on. The very first thing, I only give you 6 of them because I didn't want to get too crazy, but I would wash and lube and grease the $3.5 million worth of equipment a lot more frequently than we do right now. Clean and line ditches, which would actually remove a lot of the litter. So that we can get the swales going a little bit better. Jet and clean culverts and drain lines. Is Ray still here? It's one of Ray Breslin's big things he'd like to see done a little bit more often. Clearing brush and clearing out of detention basins and head walls. A startup on our street sweeping program, and maybe change some more of our signs in town to be MUDSID compliance, because we are nowhere near compliant with MUDSID as far as all of the signs being updated. There's certainly things that we can eliminate. I'm not just asking for more. We could stop participating in any of the road work that you've seen us out here in the last few weeks, doing the shoulders, basins, signs, drainage. We can eliminate mailbox repairs. We can eliminate lawn damage. We can not attend a lot of community events like the Touch Truck that's coming up in May, the Bring Back the Trades event, Old Home Day. And helping out other departments, a lot of times it's very, very hard to tell somebody no, especially if we have the ability. So really what we ask for a lot when another department comes to us and asks for needs is just be patient. We'll get there. We'll work it in, maybe on a rainy day or whatnot. We chipped in with the recreation playground incident last year. We dug out 2 dugouts for the LAFA. We've helped out with the PD on some of their property needs and some parking issues. The mowing of the firing range, the fire department. We've done, we prepped the pad over there for their training building. We restored their forestry unit. And we even help out the schools with senior banners and voting setup, as well as town forest rails, walkways, spreading millings, brush chipping, trees, graffiti, etc. So we do other things that are not even necessarily tasked to us, but because we have the ability, we want to try and help. So what do we do for litter? We support it where we can get the help that's needed to take it on. So anybody that, if there's a bag of trash that falls off a truck, it's in the street and things like that, we report to that. In fact, we were just out on Pettingill Road the other day. It was glass all over the road, so we were out there cleaning that up. Illegal dumping, large items that are thrown on the side of the road, sofas, shingles, tires, construction debris. In fact, just today we picked up a refrigerator that was dropped off down at the Westfield soccer fields. Any bags that are picked, that volunteers do, we go and pick up all the bags and dispose of them. We just had a neighborhood out on Weymouth Road. They went and picked everything. We went out and grabbed up their efforts and thanked them very much for doing that. And of course, we support the Beautify Londonderry efforts as well. We supply all the bags to those volunteers through the New Hampshire Litter Free program. We have 6 companies in town that have adopted their own roads that they do their own annual cleanup on as well, and then we go and pick up their efforts. We'll even clean off some roadkill sometimes. We host the Household Hazardous Waste Day. We have the Sharps drop-off at the police station and drug take-back. So obviously those are very important things that we don't want to see thrown out on the side of the road as well. And then we constantly do public service announcements about the importance of disposing of trash appropriately, and we encourage and inform citizens to cover their loads while properly transporting trash around town in the back of their vehicles down to the drop-off center or wherever they may be going. So those are the things that we do. It's not that we don't do it. It's not that we're blind to it. We really do wish we could do more, but we can't. So that's what I have on litter. And then I have a few things. If you guys have any questions on litter or anything to that, I'd be happy to hear it. I figured while I'm here, I'd just give a quick department update. One is bad news, but we've known this was maybe going to happen, but we were trying to get the best out of it. The boiler system at the North Fire Station has finally seen the last of it. So it had to get replaced. They've been without heat and hot water now for about a week. So we got our vendor in to replace that. It's pricey. I won't kid you. The unit that was in there was part of the LEED program when they did that building back from 2010. And they were a little shocked to see that unit was even still in existence. They hadn't seen many of those units last more than 8 to 10 years. They were kind of a bad mark. And so when the heat exchanger went, they couldn't even get one. There isn't one in the country. So the whole unit had to come out. I'll have the final numbers on that at the next town council meeting, hopefully. But it's going to be extensive. Road work, we are continuing and completing Kit Lane, Kim Ave, Gary Drive, Wallace Circle, Gardner Circle, Orchard View Drive, and Wanning Pond Road. We've been out there milling, paving, shimming, doing shoulder work, some sidewalk work as well, and that's ongoing, and we're in a good place with the road program. Burials are well underway. Memorial Day will be here before we know it. For fleet, we have 2 6-wheel dump trucks that we have out to bid, and the 1-ton utility truck as well that was approved by the voters at the March ballot. And we finally just got our 1-ton dump truck back on Friday. Some of you may recall that on January 11th, we were sideswiped and our truck was taken out. So we were without that truck for 3 months. So that really stresses the importance to those keep back signs we have on our trucks to please and slow down, because when we lose a vehicle, it can be out for a while. Personnel, We're advertising for a CDL truck driver, so anybody paying attention tonight, please apply if you're interested. And then more importantly, this Saturday, it is a very special event to come to Londonderry, the Bring Back the Trades show. K.D. Sullivan, Patrick Sheedham, they've been taking the lead on this along with the Rotary Club. And it's going to be a really, really great event. So that's this Saturday at the high school from 9 to 1. And if anybody wants to listen to me go on any longer, please, seriously, I this is mostly for the viewing public. If you have a problem, please just give me a call. My number is 603-432-1100. I'm extension 152. You can email me. My email address is on the website. You can check us out on Facebook. You can instant message me or just drop by at 120 High Range Road where my office is. But I'm an open book. If you have concerns, bring them to me. There's really no need to come to the town council and get things worked up into a frenzy. I'd be happy to talk to you and whatnot and work the process and give you all the information that you're looking for. And that's it.
Thank you, sir, for the update.
Thank you for your time.
Dan has a quick question.
Sure.
Dave, I just want to say that I frequent West Road quite often, the drop-off center, and those employees are good employees. They do a great job down there. The only thing I would ask, and I don't know if this is possible, but before you open up, there's a lot of cars that back up on West Road waiting for that gate to open. I don't know if it's possible to leave that one open and the other one locked further down, just to get the vehicles off the road.
The queue, yeah, I understand what your request is. I can put that forward to the people in charge down there.
Yeah, just
and
ask
see
if
what's
that's possible.
what's possible, but what challenges may be with that and whatnot. But yeah, that's a pretty common situation. We do have the good news is we have a very long road that leads down to the gate that's
Correct.
there.
And they could stage there, is what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
because I got caught in Nashua the other day, and we had the same problem where I came from. Wyndham's jammed out there on 111, so I understand what your concern is. I'll pass that along.
But I just want to also pass on to the DPW workers. I think they do a great job, especially in the wintertime when I'm out there plowing. I see them out there all winter long, all day long, all night long.
Yeah,
and I appreciate what they do. Thank you.
It's good to hear, and hopefully, like I said, if we can get a third part-timer down there, then it'll just be the one equipment operator there keeping the dumpsters packed down. So,
Anyone
Right.
else?
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to new business. We have a banking update from Justin.
You want to close the public comment first?
I did. I closed. Sorry, I closed public comment before Dave came up, so I apologize.
Nope, no worries. All righty. Maybe not. All right. I am here to give you guys an update. Back on February 4th, I submitted an RFI to all the banks that are located within the town of Londonderry. We received 3 responses back. And in the packet, you will see kind of an overview of what the RFI, what the responses we got back were, as well as a financial analysis of what it means for the town financially. After reviewing them all, we've decided to move forward with TD Bank, which is a different bank than where we're currently at. This was done for various reasons. 1, it has been a couple of years since we have done it. 2, we've received a lot of complaints during tax time about how long it takes for the bank to deposit people's checks. And when we reached out, we got a couple answers that I wasn't too thrilled with. So I wanted to check with other banks to see what the process for them was. And it appears that the one we selected, it will result in quicker deposits based on what they were saying.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Why did you select the option you selected?
So TD Bank, based on the numbers we gave, will result in about $20,000 more in annual interest revenue. Again, with feds changing the rates and everything else, that's subject to change based on that. However, the way that they are going to be managing our funds is different than how other banks have. We receive an earnings credit rate, in which case a certain percentage of that money goes towards, it's in a non-interest bearing account. The ECR, earnings credit rate, will be applied to that balance, and whatever is received from that will go to offset the fees, and the difference the town would then have to pay the next month. That balance, as I said, goes into a non-interest bearing account. What TD has offered us is essentially they still do the ECR, but at $1, we're still earning interest on it as a revenue stream. So there should be minimal to no fees. I say minimal to no because things happen. However, if you look at our fiscal year 26 budget, I was able to reduce it by, I believe, about $19,000 in anticipation for this, where Citizens, the other option they gave us was $12,000 per year. So either way, I knew that we should be able to reduce it based on what I was hearing from my counterparts in other communities and some additional research I did prior to doing the RFI.
Good, thank you.
Excellent.
I just want to say Enterprise Bank is a great bank, very community oriented, and because they're big but small,
yep,
they're still able to work like really quickly on issues with money, whereas the other banks are so big that they have no flexibility. Once it's in, it's in. There's no like stopping something. It all has to be a fee and this and that, where Enterprise can move relatively still like a small bank, which is pretty amazing for a bank.
Yep,
these
absolutely.
days.
Enterprise had a great RFI.
Yeah.
I just, based on the review, I believe that TD was better at that time. I've actually reached out and asked if we can maintain a relationship and potentially look at an investment account with them to maintain that relationship for the future.
And they are, I hear, I don't know if it's true or not, but I had heard that they're merging with Rockland Savings.
Yes,
Recently.
I heard that as
It's going to
well.
happen soon. So
I heard that as well. I heard it after the decision was made. However, usually when banks merge, it becomes a little congested for those that are dealing with the merge. But that was not a factor. But I did hear about that. But again, like I said, I reached out and said, thank you for your RFI, and hopefully we can maintain a relationship since they are within the town lines.
thank you for doing your due diligence and finding some monies and savings, and
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none.
I just want to commend Justin for all the hard work. He had actually done quite a bit of research going into this. There's a lot of different comparisons that has to go into this, and the fact that he's able to reduce our costs, but also at the same time increase what we're able to get for investment return, and with the different ways he was able to take a look at this, I think was pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Next is a purchase of an aerial ladder tower apparatus.
Don't go too far.
Yeah.
I'm not talking money without the money, guys. Welcome, thank you again. So this year, we had the opportunity to present to the citizens for a new ladder truck. They overwhelmingly supported that. We have been working to finalize the design and the cost. It came in under our estimates, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of turmoil right now, and it came in more than we were hoping, but still less than we asked for. Justin can explain the money part of this, but we're looking at basically 2.2 on a warrant article that came in at 2.3. So unfortunately, we're still at 4-year build time.
So that is part of the negative aspect here of where it's a 4-year build time. In their agreement, they will have a clause in there that allows for an increase before delivery. So that additional funding could potentially be used for that. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully the price will remain as is because they do absorb a certain percentage. But there is that possibility. In terms of the actual financing of it, we're going to take a look and talk with auditors to see what we could potentially do regarding it. Because right now, again, interest rates, the feds they've been talking about cutting it now for, I feel like, about a year. But at some point, they likely will end up cutting it. And rather than walking in today at the higher rate, where we know we're not getting it for 4 years, we can potentially look at doing it down the road as well, and during that time, potentially funding the fire department, the truck capital reserve, to lower the amount we're financing to further help the taxpayers and the total appropriation that we'd be requesting on an annual basis.
So having said that, they did build in escalators for tariffs and other things, just like every vendor we have right now has created service charges or some kind of extra fee. And they built those in as well, and we're hoping that that will offset whatever increase it is, but
Yep.
it is not coming in over budget.
Great.
Excellent. Any questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
All right,
Appreciate
and
it.
then you have the paperwork to sign, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So.
Next is ordinance 2025-02, an amendment to the municipal code relating to the sewer usage. John Chartier.
Good afternoon. I understand this is the first reading of it, and I'm here this evening. I'd be more than happy to present what this amendment to the ordinance is all about. Again, just a reminder that all sewer-related costs are drawn from the Sewer Enterprise Fund, and there are no impact on the tax rates. So if people remember, we had came to the board back in September of last year. Myself, Bob Carey, and Mike Malaguti, we had presented to the board the update to our sewer facilities plan. And that facilities plan, the last time it had been updated was in 2005. The reason why we update that facilities plan is that we take into consideration any development that had occurred since 2005. We take a look at all the improvements that we would have done or that was contemplated back in 2005. We want to assure the accuracy of the access fee in the determination process. So back in 2005, we had looked at a number of projects. We had come up with a cost of $16.51 per gallon to gain access for new users to tie into the sanitary sewer system. Would cost them $16.51 per gallon. We had a lot of projects on hand. We've probably completed about half of those projects. Plaza 28 pump station in Forest, Maine, some improvements, the reconstruction of the Action Boulevard pump station, the construction of the Tocono pump station, some extensions of our South Londonderry sewer from, again, the Tocono pump station all the way up to behind Shaw's Plaza. So we've done a number of improvements. So basically, as we look at it, our costs start to go down. We also look at all the redevelopment or the development that has occurred, then anything that's on the books. Again, working with the planning department and take a look at what we foresee as additional flows that we could anticipate. The other source, so the source of income for the sewer and the sewer enterprise fund, again, is the sewer access fee. New users would pay that one-time fee based on the design flow that they contribute to the sewer system. The other source of income is the quarterly sewer usage charges paid by the existing sewer customers, so they get a quarterly bill of $96 per quarter. So that sewer access rate determination relies on, again, the process of looking at what's happened in town, what we see on the books. So we put all that into the mix, and that's how we come back to determining that sewer access. And we do need to periodically look at that and make sure that it's equitable and it's fair. We don't need to be taking too much money. It's not a bank account, basically. So the updated wastewater facilities plan concluded that the sewer access fee could be reduced from the current rate of $16.51 per gallon to $12.24 per gallon. Again, as we had indicated back in September, we'd be back to present to you this change in the sewer access fee. So that's basically what the purpose of this meeting is. My presentation is this evening. So our sewer connection fee will stay the same. It's a $200 flat rate. That's more of the administrative portion of it. $200 for new users, $50 for existing homes. Back in 2005, when we had presented when we had changed the access fees, we had gone through a number of iterations of making it fair to people that had already purchased or had their septic systems constructed. So there's a two-tier system, one for a brand-new connection and one for if you're on if you have your own septic now and you're tying into the system. So there is two different rate structures. So the current residential unit, again, is $3,467. The proposed access fee would, again, for the residential units is $2,570. So, and that is for the unit itself. So, but as I indicated, we're dropping that per gallon from $16.51 down to $12.24. So that's it in a nutshell.
Any questions from the council?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Just to clarify, that rate per gallon, that's only for commercial industrial users, correct?
I'm sorry?
The rate per gallon is only for commercial industrial users, is that correct?
Well, again, $16.51, yeah.
Well,
So-
and the new 1224.
Correct.
It's only for commercial industrial.
Again, we base our number for the residential unit, though, Ted, based on that 1224.
So what is a residential unit paying on a per year basis? Are they paying that $25.70 per year?
Or no, they're paying $96. So this is just access, Ted.
Okay, I just want to make
Yep.
sure.
This is access. You're confusing with user. So every quarter, they get an invoice for $96. So that's user fees.
For residential units? Thank you.
Correct.
But
Yep.
for commercial industrial users, it's
They-
based
they
on
get- they
gallon
get-
usage?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I guess just for more of a clarity for people at home, what was the reason for the big drop of about almost 26% drop?
Because like I say, we did a number of improvements. Again, our Tocono Drive Pump Station in Force Main, that was completed in 2005. Action Boulevard Pump Station replacement, and we did that in 2008. Portion of the South London area interceptor, south of 102, that was done over a period of about 11 years. So our Web Drive interceptor, Force Main and a pump station, that was completed in 2017. Our Plaza 28 pump station was done in 2019. So we've done millions of dollars worth of improvements there.
Have you had more users connect to the system
Oh, absolutely.
due to all this?
It continues. Not necessarily due to all this, if our industrial, obviously. But as far as the residential, we haven't really expanded too much with the residential.
So essentially, you've had more commercial industrial users, so in a way, with more users, you can actually drop down the rate potentially.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
But you're not dropping the rate for the residential, that stays the same, correct?
No, again, it's.
Okay, it's just the commercial, like he said, it's the.
It's access. Again, it's the access fee is
Got it.
being dropped for
I
commercial.
just want to make sure that people understand this isn't for them.
No, it is for them.
Okay. And what's the
Again,
difference?
The residential is based off the commercial. So when the commercial drops, because the residential is based off that, that also will drop.
So I guess my question is, what would the residents see in a differential in that savings? Like, are they going to see something a little less or?
So rather than them paying $3,467 per residential unit, they're going to pay $2,570
For a new unit,
for a
correct?
new unit.
For
a new
what?
Access.
For a new unit that is
Oh, a
built.
new unit. I'm sorry.
Yep. Current units that are paying, that are still in the sewer system will be paying the $96 or $97, you said?
96.
$96 quarterly, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I know that was just the first reading. I will be out on the next meeting, so I'll send Bob and.
Thank you.
If there needs to be some questions. Thank you.
Next is discussion on intersection of Sanborn Road and Rockingham Road. And Dan Bouchard,
I brought this up at the last meeting. Got a lot of feedback from parents up there, all concerned about it. And I guess I'd just like to hear from our town manager, what kind of solution do we have before I get into it more.
Good evening, and thank you, not as your town manager, but as your police chief. I'm going to address some of these concerns that have been brought to my attention in the last 2.5 weeks. First off, the last 2.5 weeks, this is the first time the police department has heard any concerns about North and Sanborn. In the last year of the school year, not one complaint from a bus driver, not one call from a concerned parent, not one concern from a teacher, not one concern from the bus company, not one concern from the superintendent of schools, not one concern from the chairman of the school board. In the course of the last 5 years, the police department did a survey of traffic accidents in that intersection. 4 in 5 years during that time of school. 2 of them in 2020. One of them was at 2:55 and one was at 3:32. Both of them, car spun out due to icy road conditions, and the other one rear-ended somebody on Sanborn, bumped into somebody on 28. The other one was in 2023. Ice flew off the back of a truck. One in 2022. Somebody bumped, rear-ended somebody on Sanborn Road. We haven't had any fatals, thank goodness. We haven't had any major complaints at all. If this was a complaint, the police department would handle it. A concern, we look into it. A major issue, we would handle it. I'm not up here downplaying the concerns that Mr. Bouchard has brought forward in the last 2 weeks. Former police officer, I believe that was Ken Lynch, if I'm not mistaken, right? Ken, that's who that was. I think I met Ken once in the 25 years I lived here. I've worked here. I haven't heard from Mr. Lynch. Mr. Lynch said that Dan Bouchard asked him to come in. Mr. Lynch can call too, and we would address that concern. Just like anybody else who had contacted us today at the town council meeting, the people from Bartley Hill and the other one from Noyes, or Stonehenge and Noyes, whichever it was. The police department has 4 SROs, and for history, 2 of them were voted in by taxpayers. 2. The other 2 I take from personnel, and we put them in there to add to the police department's presentation or presence at the schools. 2 SROs respond to the middle school and 1 to the high school. We have 2 at the elementaries. We have 3. So we have the North, for those who are concerned with the North School. We have 1 who handles that, and Matthew Thornton. We have 1 SRO who handles South School and helps out at Moose Hill. So we can't have an SRO in 2 schools at the same time. I've made this remark at the last meeting that we will look into it. We will try to help out when we have availability. That is not an excuse. Yet again, most of the time we have 3 patrolmen, so everybody know we have 3 patrol personnel on day shift, and we have 4 cops in the schools. What we try to do is handle the calls as they come in appropriately in a timely manner, and we don't have just all this random free time to do nothing. The police department, as you folks know, handles a wide variety of calls all day long, 24 hours a day, nonstop. The idea to take an administrator out of the office at $50-something an hour would seem silly. I could probably fill it with overtime, but the counselor suggested that wasn't a good idea. And I would agree. It's not a good idea. I could take a patrol personnel, if allotted time, in the north sector at this intersection, but if calls for service comes in and the parents or the buses have to wait, then the officer would clear and they're on their own. I sat up there last week. I had my lunch in my car. I showed up at 3 o'clock. School lets out at 3:15. They were all cleared and out of there by 3:28. I didn't see any near misses. I didn't see any major concerns. Are people impatient? Absolutely. Do people want to wait in traffic 5 minutes, 6 minutes to get out of line? No, don't blame them. Ironically, I do this every single day when I come to work. The town I live in, there's a middle school right down the street from me before the main road. And I wait every day 9 to 10 minutes myself. I don't call the police chief in that town complaining. I wait in line. I proceed out when the traffic lets me out. If this was such a major concern, we would handle this as a police department. Mammoth Road is a major road in town. Yes, as is 28. We have the middle school officer out there. He lets out traffic. Says historically, the parents and the buses were backing up onto Mammoth Road. The high school officer lets people out for similar reasons to keep the flow of the buses going because those too can back up. The South School helps out when she's able. There is a crossing guard there. There is a crossing guard at the middle school. We don't have a crossing guard at the north part of town. Don't know why we don't. Mr. Bouchard said that somebody almost got hit or got hit many years ago. Must be well before my time. I don't know about that. What I think we can do is next year at the start of the school season, I would be advertising an additional crossing guard. We can put that out there to have a body present to help or stop traffic when students are out there. I cannot stand here today and guarantee you that I will have a cop there every single day because that may not happen. I don't always have an SRO directing traffic if they're out sick or on a vacation day. They all manage. The cars proceed when appropriate and when safe to do so. I contacted DOT at your request, Ms. Paul. The light to trigger that intersection, that doesn't warrant what that crosswalk is there for. So there was no way for them to have a stop signal in the pavement to trip that light to stop so people could get out. But I did ask, they don't have that. I also asked about how come there isn't a traffic light out of curiosity in case that question was to come up today. DOT, when I spoke to them on the phone, and I can't quote them verbatim, but it was something like this. For the 15 minutes in the morning and the 15 minutes in the evening, 5 days a week, through a school year, which is 180 days, wouldn't warrant a traffic signal there for the entire year. So for a total of a potential half an hour inconvenience during the day, there was that concern that it didn't warrant. I'm no engineering person. I'm no traffic expert. I don't study those things. But we did have the data. We did research it. We will continue to monitor this, as I have said before. If there is a unit that's available, we will put it out. We talk about this all the time in the police department. If there is a concern, we look into it. So sitting over there, as you can tell, is the Deputy Chief of Operations and the operations captain himself. These gentlemen oversee all the SROs, the traffic unit, and all the concerns, complaints, essays, directed patrols that we have within the organization, and we handle them. I will not, again, stand up here and promise you that I can have a cop out there directing traffic every single day starting tomorrow or Monday. What I am suggesting is I will hire, if I can, if anybody wants to work for $15 or $18 an hour to be a crossing guard, we can open that position up and see if we could fill it, and happy to entertain that. And if we can, and I'll repeat that, if we can have an officer when they are available to help dump traffic out, we can help when we can.
Any questions for the chief?
I've got some comments on this. Okay. We had a problem on Mammoth Road for quite a while, and the solution was, let's put stop signs. Let's get people off of Old Mammoth Road. Let's get them on the main road, which is 28. Well, that's where they're going now. They're going on 28. So traffic has increased on 28 even more. Okay? But I heard, well, let's make a left, the buses can make a left turn out of the school and go down on Clark Road. The buses cannot make a left turn out of the school. It's impossible because these buses just can't make the turn with the telephone poles there. It's just not doable. Chief, you said it's you haven't heard one concern. Well, a year ago, I brought this to your attention. That was a concern. I haven't seen anything done about it. The bus company, when I spoke to them, they said they stopped complaining because nothing was done. They've asked and asked. Now, maybe it wasn't, recently because they stopped asking. I spoke to parents up there, and I spoke to the principal up there, and he says they put in a petition 5 years ago to try to address this issue, to try to get help up there. Nothing was done. You state that taking an administrator out of the office is silly. I don't think the safety of our children, the safety of our citizens is a silly thing to have somebody up there. You said if it was a major concern, we would handle it. I guess I'm trying to be proactive instead of reactive in this situation. I don't want any of the counselors or anybody here getting a call that we now have a bus that got rammed by a truck, or we got a serious accident on 28 in Sanborn when, we could do something about it. I know you stated a crossing guard. Yeah, we had a crossing guard up there, and the crossing guard got hit. Personally, I don't think a crossing guard would work. I think when you are on Mammoth Road by the middle school, and that officer is out there with his lights and his cruiser, it alerts the traffic to slow down. Up there on 28 in Sanborn, that's what you need. You need something with lights to alert traffic to slow down. Not just, I can see a crossing guard out there, but, if she stops the traffic, and I've seen it. I didn't spend one day up there. I've spent 3 weeks up there, in the morning and in the afternoon. And I've seen cars stopped coming from the Manchester end, trying to make a left on Sanborn, and being passed on the right-hand side with cars not even slowing down. My concern would be this crossing guard out there by herself or himself stopping traffic like that. Somebody coming on the right passing, and he's letting traffic out, and then we have a problem. So that's my concern about a crossing guard. I've said it before, I think, and you and I have had this discussion. It's up to you. I know that when I worked for this police department, when somebody said, I want this, I got a concern, I want this done, it was done. We didn't have this big debate about, well, I didn't hear about anything, I haven't heard this, and, they haven't contacted me. Well, when I talk to people, they say, we've contacted, we've tried, and we just gave up. All right? And I understand how that feels. All right? But I just feel that something needs to be done before somebody gets seriously hurt or killed up there. 28, you can't compare it to South Road. South School traffic is not, I'd say 50 miles an hour like 28 is. All right? I know it's 40. I know it's dropped down to 30 when the lights are flashing. But for some reason, people just don't slow down at that 30. So I think if we have somebody at South School helping out, and they have a crossing guard on top of that, all right? So you have a crossing guard and a school resource officer there. We've got nobody up there. So that's my concern.
Deb?
I just, 2 points. the light that I was asking about, it's not in the ground. It's actually a sensor that goes on top of the light pole that goes, goes across the road. And the light, the sensor can read where cars are. And that's what flitches the switch. I did a little bit of research. I don't know if DOT doesn't have them, but we do have them. And I can send you a couple of links. And the cost didn't look much. It was like, I don't know. I can't remember. It was affordable. It wasn't crazy expensive. These switches that they use. I'll send you the link, if that's okay.
That sounds great.
Deb, I think to get to what our town manager and chief was getting to is that the state had done studies and they did not deem that intersection was necessary to have even a lighted intersection at that.
Well, we have a pedestrian light. It just sits on top of it, and if there's a car in a queue, it registers it and it switches the light, just like someone pressing a button. It works the same way. That was the way I understood reading what I read online. Again, that's not my area of expertise.
I just want to, so I'm not going to speak for our town engineer who's in the audience, but the way that light works is a pedestrian walks up to it and hits a button.
Right.
And that.
I understand that, Kelly. I totally understand that. This is in conjunction with it. It works with that.
I just
it
want to
sits
make
up
sure
top.
it's clear so people aren't thinking that it is currently registering vehicles.
No, I'm talking about maybe looking into potentially purchasing this thing that sits on the top.
You think there's some kind of a technology that
There is.
provides that?
And I'll send you the link. I mean, I don't know. We got to do a little more digging. That's all.
Send me
But
whatever you're referring to. I don't
Sure,
know anything
no
about what
worries.
you're suggesting. And if
The
you
other
don't,
thing I wanted to just address
Please.
is, I'm sorry, I think I agree with Dan. I think that's a great idea. The state police do it all the time. They just leave a car there with nobody in it, and it just slows down the traffic. And that might be the answer, or not the answer, but it could be a movement in the right direction. That's all.
I'm trying to get to all these. If you don't mind, Mr. Chair. Mr. Bouchard, I'm not aware of any petition from the principal some 5 years ago. I don't know
Not
anything.
from the principal, from a parent.
Okay, I don't know anything about that. 5 years ago, I was not the police chief, but I was in charge of operations. I don't know where that went, who it went to, any of that. I don't know. My recommendation or suggestion was that, buses and parents, or buses and moms and dads that pick up their kids in their personal cars, there are other ways out of Sanborn Road. There's two. There's Clark Road and there's 28. What I was referring to is if I was that concerned, again, if I would go down Sanborn and I would take a ride on Clark and I would go out down there. I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to help make a suggestion. The left part out of the school, again, I get it. But at the same time, these are some things that we're trying to think of to be creative, to help what is perceived to be a new concern that, again, I wasn't aware of. So much like the Old Mammoth Road, we had like 5 accidents in 3 or 4 months up there. We had a car almost drive through someone's house. I don't like comparing the what ifs and hyperboles of what could happen. I think that's wrong. We're going to jinx ourselves, and that's not okay. And as a police chief, I know you can understand why I'm saying this. I do care about the community. Every single day, we perform at the highest level to protect the men, the women, the children of these citizens of this town every single day. This concern, as I said about 12 minutes ago, I am going to look into it. We have the data that doesn't suggest what people are implying. I don't overreact. I don't freak out. I'm going to look at it. We'll try to hire someone too. And if I can get personnel up there, and if they are available and free, we will help. I'm not going to stand here and promise you that I will have somebody up there every single day before and after, because I can't. I cannot. What happened 20 and 30 years ago in police work that you and Mr. Lynch talked about, I don't know. 30 years ago, I didn't work there. We're a bigger PD. We have a lot more calls for service, but ironically, the staff on day shift is still the same. The difference is we have 4 SROs instead of 1. So we are growing in that area. And as I mentioned before, As I told some of the members on the town council when I first got appointed chief, one of the goals was to increase our staffing and add an additional SRO. That would be 3 that come off of my total head count to put into the school. 3. I'm only required and mandated by the warrant article to have 2. But we feel as though, as a police department, the safety of the kids is important to have an officer in the school. That's why we have 2 more. So I hear your concern, Counselor. Well, I appreciate your efforts in moving this forward. We can and we will work together on a resolution. It just may not be overnight as you would hope.
I just want to make one more comment. I mean, people have used this all the time, you know, when they want, when we want an extra officer as a school resource officer, we always use the excuse that, oh, we got to protect our kids. The most precious thing that we have is in our schools. All right? Well, the most precious thing we have coming out of North School are our kids and parents. So I will end with that. And it's up to you guys what you want to do.
Any other questions or concerns from that?
Ron.
You look.
So I'd first say regarding the intersection, it's a state road, and the state has to determine what they will or will not do with that intersection. I think we were lucky when we were able to actually get the crosswalk in when we did. And I believe it's still under the grand scheme of the triangle intersection with the mobile station that's there for their 10-year big master plan. And if they're still deeming that that intersection is not worthy of a light, we cannot make them put in a light because the state owns that road. And I would really recommend at this time for us to look at doing a crossing guard to work at that intersection when we can.
Yeah, I think I just don't want to confuse the two things. I believe Ms. Paul was asking me 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, whatever it was, but I was under the assumption you were saying something when someone pulls on the Sanborn, it trips the crosswalk, it stops the car so people could dump out.
Right.
That's what I asked, and that wasn't a thing. But you're talking about something completely different now.
Yeah.
But in that same inquiry that I made with DOT, I did ask, historically, what's the deal? Was there or why isn't there a traffic signal in that intersection? And that was the information that I got. So if you can,
I'll send you
whatever,
the link.
whatever.
Like I said, it was
yes,
just
please.
A thought. I mean, I'm just
sure.
trying to find a solution
to
make everybody happy.
I get that.
I kind of the cross guard. That is a dangerous road. I can see a cross guard, like the cars are slower near the police, near the high school. They're a little bit slower there near the high school on Mammoth Road. They drive a little slower than coming right off of where North School is, and even South School. It's a little bit slower. I do agree that a cross guard there would be dangerous. That's why I like the idea of leaving a car with its lights. Even if somebody just thought there was a police officer there, people not even from our town just flying
I get
through.
that. Yeah, but we don't generally just leave cars unattended somewhere running with lights on. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'd want to be up here explaining how it got stolen. That would be a bad look for me to try to explain that. I left a car running on 28 and someone's out joyriding.
I thought I was going to be able to take one for a joyride.
We can let you drive one if you want.
That's scary.
No. Okay. So I hear you loud and clear. What's that?
I don't think our insurance will let us.
Never mind. No, you can't do that apparently.
I agree.
Okay. Do you have anything else on me, Mr. Chairman?
No, I was just going to ask if the public had any comments, if anyone wanted to say anything. I don't see anyone, so thank you, sir.
Okay.
Next order of business is allocation of funds from the transfer of 35 Gilchrist. Marge, if you want to come up, and Mike, if you want to come up too, please. You're welcome to come up and speak if you like, Mike. Okay. All right. Thank you, Marge.
Mr. Chair, is there a presentation on this item?
There is.
We just didn't have it in our packet, that's all.
There's no written anything. No presentation on the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. Marge Bedoy, 189 Litchfield Road, Chairman of the Conservation Commission. I'm here to provide the council and the public with some background regarding the transactions on the parcel known as the Gilchrist Orchard, Tax Map 7, Lot 118. I'd also like to offer some considerations regarding the use of the town's proceeds received from the sale of the development rights on this parcel. Back on September 15th in 2003, the town purchased the development rights on this parcel at a cost of $1,230,000 by way of a warrant article. At that time, from feedback I've gotten from public, there was an overwhelming community understanding that this was conservation permanently in place once this was purchased. A little over 18 years later, the town meeting voted in March of 22 to sell these development rights back to the landowner for $2,650,000. The conservation easement had an unusual provision that allowed the town to withdraw the restrictions. That is not on any other conservation easement that we have. At the same time, at the same meeting, the town voted to use $750,000 of the purchase price to be used within reasonable time to replace the property currently under a conservation and open space restriction. That was the wording. When these transactions were considered by the Conservation Commission, we conditioned our support for the transactions on the replacement property having a equal or greater conservation value than the proposed development property. At the 2022 deliberative session, Mike Speltz pointed out that we could not know in advance how much a replacement parcel of equal or greater conservation value would actually cost. He urged the town meeting to use a not to exceed amount instead of a specific amount for the warrant article. Town Council Farrell stated that it doesn't restrict that we have to spend this amount. It could be more or less. Town Manager Malaguti explained that they needed to have a specific number as a matter of practicality and legality. These discussions could be summarized by saying the replacement parcel must meet two criteria. It must have equal or greater conservation value than the parcel being developed to be acceptable by the Conservation Commission. It must cost less than $2,650,000 because that's all we're getting. Since these decisions were made 3 years ago, the need to protect our remaining open space has become even more urgent. Development has accelerated, adding demand for more services from our police, fire, and schools. The demand has resulted in increased taxes not fully covered by the increased property tax. Traffic has increased, complicated by more curb cuts on more streets, which further snarls traffic. The Master Plan Steering Committee, in their December 24 survey, makes clear that residents desire the preservation of open space, farms, and orchards, essentially preserving our town's culture. Of the town's 5 remaining orchards, 3 are protected, 1 is partially developed, and 1 is going to be completely developed. The 2013 Open Space Plan identifies 102 parcels with conservation values greater than those of the Gilchrist Orchard. Of those properties, 1,500 acres have already been lost to development. The cost of land is rising while the Conservation Commission is being outbid in our attempts to acquire properties to protect. Clearly, the window for protecting the town's open spaces is closing. I urge the council to use the funds from the sale of the restrictions on the Gilchrist Orchard not only to satisfy the requirements to replace the orchard's conservation value, but also to boost the town's permanent protection of our open space. This is an opportunity to preserve open space without putting the cost on the taxpayer.
Thank you. Any questions from the council?
I got a question of Justin. Justin, if Justin's available.
Justin, are you prepared to answer a question, or do you want to?
Question is first.
Okay.
That thing's failed me. Every time I touch it, it falls.
Oh, it makes a noise.
So, Justin, my question is, can that money that we got from
The additional 1.9 million
yeah, can that be allocated to the conservation?
this fiscal year, no. You can do a warrant article next year to do it. However, there is no appropriation for that $1.9 million. Technically, when that warrant article 17 was passed, it was non-monetary and it authorized the council to sell the property for no less than the $2,650,000. The warrant article 18, the 750, was an appropriation, which is why we were able to transfer the funds over to the conservation. So in order to do that, we would have to find the 1.9 million somewhere else in the budget to absorb that appropriation, or potentially request an emergency appropriation, or see if there's a way to tap into fund balance in that aspect.
So where does that-
Unfortunately, we're not like the school district where a public hearing will meet that regard in a situation like this. But you could do a warrant article next year requesting this.
So we're looking at 1.9 million.
What?
Right. Is that we're looking at 1.9? You said
Yes.
1.9. They're getting 750 of that, or
Per the warrant article, no, it was $2,650,000.
Okay, so we have
750 is already sent over to the Conservation Commission.
that leaves us with 1.9. Where
Correct.
does that 1.9 sit right now? Where
That
does that go?
1.9 sits as revenue for the town, and at year end, it will lapse to undesignated fund balance.
So let's say that Conservation Commission came up and said, we found a piece of land that we want to buy for $1 million. Could we tap into that 1.9 million? Or does that have to go in front of a warrant article to the town?
I believe it would have to go in front of a warrant article to the town in order to get the appropriation. It could also be added to the default, or not the default, to the operating budget with the offsetting revenue of the 1.9 if you don't want to have a separate warrant article for it. Essentially, the issue right now is we don't have a $1.9 million appropriation, and we can't spend money without the appropriation. So the other alternative I can think of at this point would be to not spend $1.9 million in the operating budget this year if you wanted to spend it this year.
So knock 1.9 million off of services currently provided to the town to try to do this. Okay.
No.
That's he just said
So
yes.
So right now, it's sitting in the town fund, right? And it can be used for what? A, B, C, D. It can't be touched at all for a year. And when does that year end?
we don't have an appropriation for it.
So it just sits in a bank account
Correct.
getting interest, correct? And it will not be touched at all. And when does
So
that...
it doesn't get interest, the town gets the interest on it.
Right, but I'm saying it's just collecting interest,
Yes.
right? So when does the year end? Like your year? Is it like the budget season? When does that...
June 30th. It's not a matter of we can't touch it this year.
So
if we don't have an appropriation, we don't.
Right, if you don't have an appropriation,
Yes.
you can't touch it. But in June, you said June 30th?
That's the end of our fiscal year.
Okay. What happens then to the money?
So right now it's classified as revenue.
Right.
Next, June 30th, when we close out the books, it will go into undesignated fund balance.
Okay. When something goes in undesignated fund balance, at what time can it be appropriated or used for
During the
something?
budget
Only
cycle.
on a warrant, or that's it?
During the budget season. Or you can utilize UFB to lower the tax rate. So those are the two big ways. The other way is should revenues fall short, UFB will make up the difference. But for what we're talking about now, those are the two ways that UFB can be utilized is to lower the tax rate during the tax rate setting, or in the budget process, whether it's the operating budget where you put in the use of fund balance as a revenue and then increase for purchase of property or something of that nature, or you do a separate warrant article to move the money into the Conservation Commission, utilizing this and stating it's from UFB, so
Right,
it's not
but
raised through taxation.
Kind of ties their hand. If just say,
Yes.
something wonderful comes up on the market and it's a great price and we need to move, we have the inability not to be able to do this, even though we have this money there.
Correct. We need taxpayers' approval to spend the money. We can't unilaterally spend the taxpayers' money without their approval.
Okay. So the other thing I'll ask you then is about kind of off topic, but land use taxes, right? When land changes use, we get the first, 100,000, and then the town gets
So
60 and
the-
they get 40. Correct?
With one exception, they get the first 100,000.
That's what I said.
Oh, you said we get the first 100,000.
Well, I meant conservation gets the
Yes.
first 100,000, and
Yes.
then the town gets 60% of that,
Yep.
and the conservation gets 40.
Correct.
So
that money,
that's a fund, right? That's somewhere.
that money gets transferred into the conservation fund, and they can utilize that. They currently have 1.4 million in their open space account.
Okay. And so I'm going to ask another question. How can that land use tax percentage change?
The last time it was changed or attempted to be changed was a warrant article.
I'm sorry?
The last time it was attempted to be changed was a warrant article.
Okay. You don't know when, though, right? Like 10 years ago, 5 years ago?
I want to say it was like 2016, 2017.
That's about right.
Right?
2017?
Around there, yeah. And I believe it was amended.
It was 2015 or 2016. Tom Frieda and one of the budget committee members were.
And I believe it was amended at deliberative to maintain what it was prior. So essentially, somebody went in and changed it. Let's say, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say they changed it 80-20 at deliberative. Somebody came in and amended it back to 60-40.
Okay.
So Justin, on that 1.9 million, all right, if we leave it in undesignated fund balance, all right, we don't touch it, it's not going to affect services, right? Or is that going to affect our current services?
So I guess I'm not sure what you mean with that.
So
I can help clarify that because
Yeah.
I've noticed it. So what Justin was saying was ways to pay for the 1.9 million. One of the ways would be to reduce 1.9 million from the operating budget, which would affect services.
yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's
That's
all
where I
was
was
saying.
going. That's why
Yes.
I was going with that. Because when I heard you say that, I was like, I don't want to affect services. But
And if somebody is aware of a different way, I'm more than willing to listen. But from my understanding is you need the appropriation in order to spend the money. It's the taxpayers' money. They need to authorize you to spend it, and they do so by a warrant article or one of the other aspects, the 60-40, where we were authorized to move 40 into the conservation, where conservation then has the authority to spend it.
so
Right.
if
And you can
next,
change that 100,000 too to a different amount as well, if you wanted to.
And
Add a warrant article. I
Correct.
understand that.
Yep.
so Justin, if you looked at the 1.9 million, and it stayed in undesignated fund balance, and next year a warrant article was written that said to the taxpayers, we want to use the 1.9 million from the sale of the 35 Gilchrist Road for conservation, could that be done? That could be done.
Yes.
All right. And then that's how they would be able to.
Let me asterisk that with yes, I believe so. DRA, I need to verify DRA will let us say from the sale of the previous year. But you could do a warrant article for 1.9 million from undesignated fund balance to the conservation fund, if that makes sense. I can't confirm DRA will let us say from the sale of blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But if you were to just do a warrant article, then you could.
So let's say that conservation came up to the council and said, we have property X that we'd like to purchase. And they worked up an agreement with that person and said, listen, we have $1 million right now, but we will put up forward a warrant article for 1.9. Should we get that, we could move on your property. That makes sense to you?
It does. I have concerns about putting the cart before the horse when it comes to warrant articles. So essentially, if you were to do something like that, I'd want to make sure that that 1 million is refundable. That way, we're not out the 1 million should that warrant article fail
Correct.
for whatever reason.
Correct. It's just like, it'd be negotiations on their end so that they could say, hey, we've got this 1.9 from Gilchrist Road sale. We're going to put it towards to the voters. If the voters say it, yes. If not, then it's a no deal.
It still
So-
has to come in front of the council.
Right.
though. The council has the authority to spend that money, not the Conservation Commission.
That's
Right.
correct.
Right.
Just-
but
just
but if
being
the,
clear.
what I'm saying, Sean, is that if the Conservation Commission went out there and found this property and they said, this is a good deal, all right, brought it to the council,
Yeah,
and,
okay, I get you.
and the council and present it to the council and say, listen, we can get this property for, let's say, 2.9 million. We have $1 million in our fund, all right, and would you be in agreement to put a warrant article forward using that 1.9 million?
Yeah,
the
that'd
council.
be the process we'd have to do if
Correct.
we're going to do that.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at something that you guys could be looking at. You know,
Yeah,
if you
that would all be spelled out in a, basically
contract.
in a purchase and sale
Yep.
contract, saying this is contingent upon us receiving
Exactly.
this approval on the warrant.
Yeah.
And prior to all that, I'd like to just double check with Yuri that you can do something like that.
Right.
I just get nervous where we are entering into an agreement without voter approval on the rest of the money coming in.
Yeah. Okay.
And Justin, just another quick question. If they had a specific property that they wanted to purchase on a warrant article, and say it was $1 million, they could put that up as a warrant article also?
If it's $1 million,
Okay, just say it's just $1 million and we wanted to take the money. I'm just saying, just to keep it simple.
so let's say it's $3 million. What they could say is that they're going to utilize 1.1 from their fund
Yep.
and then 1.9 from UFB.
Okay.
Again, though, that could be adjusted at deliberative, where that 1.9 at UFB could now come from taxation, could be split, could be
Right.
broken up, however.
Or even at deliberative, that money may fail, and then that deal would fall through.
Correct. And that's where my hesitation comes on entering into an agreement before the voters approve.
So basically, this money's landlocked until we can get it to the warrant, and hopefully it passes, and then maybe be able to conserve more land, correct? Correct? Okay, well, we got 2 warrant articles for next year.
Mr. Chair, I have a few questions. This might be a question, I guess, for Conservation Commission and for Kelly, who may know the data better. What is the percentage of our total conservation land at this point in time in town?
I don't have
I
it.
don't know the percentage, but the numbers you cited when you started speaking initially, I think are accurate. I actually, I can have that information for you at the next meeting.
I believe I had heard before it was between 35 to almost 40% of the town.
No, I
don't think it's.
I think it's like 20%.
Yeah.
That's
Max.
Ted, to answer your question, Mr. Speltz has
Did I?
approximate.
Did you say, Justin, that this is a spooky chair?
No, well, this thing
I
is.
touched that before. It kept every time. It just dropped on me.
Just play tag team then.
All right.
When we did the open space plan in 2013, we computed that, and I think the answer of legally protected open space, so that's land that the town owns, that is, or that is under a permanent conservation easement, and I think that number came to around 17%. I'd want to, research that and get back to you. There are some other numbers that are floated around. For example, there's a wetland. It's not owned by the town. There's no easement on it. Chances are it's not going to be developed, although lately we've seen the wetlands get threatened at best. So when you throw that in, then the number is up to, I think, in the 30s. But, that's not really protected. And if state law changes or our town ordinances change, then they lose that protection. But for truly protected land, I think it's around 17%.
I would agree with you, but I just want to make sure it's clear. So, for example, when we have easements over property like Max Apples, that's not protected per se, not in its entirety. There are easements. There's a difference between 100% protected land and a conservation easement in some instances.
Yeah,
shouldn't
that
be.
number, I think, includes like Max Orchard, because basically the key is, can it be developed? Is it for agriculture and forestry use only, or is it prohibited to have commercial or industrial or residential use? Those are the biggies.
So the easements dictate what the use can or can't be.
Right, conservation easement does, right? That's where the protection comes from.
Any other questions?
I guess I'm also just wondering, I mean, you had mentioned some potential properties, and I know a lot of times you guys look at properties that are actually meaningful properties to actually purchase or not. And I know when I had sat on the Conservation Commission in the past, it seemed like the properties were kind of drying up in town to purchase.
Well, they're out there, but it's also, you can't buy something that's not for sale.
Correct.
Which, you know, not everybody wants to sell their property. And so it's kind of, we don't know when something is going to become available. We have, you know, our wish list.
You know, as Marge said earlier, we get outbid. So we're signed up for what's called the Land Trust Alliance Standards and Practices. So we have assumed an ethical obligation to protect land in a certain way. And one of the key elements of that is, and it's really designed as a protection of the taxpayers, is that we have a third party establish the value of any land that we want to purchase. So it's not up to us to say, man, that seems like a pretty good deal. We go to a professional appraiser and have the land appraised. So he comes in at X amount. But if a developer with a different approach, or for example, somebody that said, well, I think I can figure out a way to do a planned use development here that's going to allow me to do a lot more, then the land's worth more to me because I can pack more into it. So they come in and you know, they get an offer from the developer saying, well, I can get X from the Conservation Commission, but I could get 2X from the developer. So, you know, we've lost land that way. So you truly need a willing seller, meaning not necessarily only somebody that's willing to, you know, sign for a certain price, but willing to see their land, you know, go into conservation, and that's sort of a double challenge for us.
I can say as long as I've lived in this town, I think one of the best parcels that we lost was north of Pillsbury, the Max property.
Right.
Oh, yes.
You know, conservation had done good work on that, and we lost it. And that's unfortunate.
No, that's a perfect example.
Exactly the situation he's talking about.
Yep, exactly.
We had a appraisal done. We had a number. We were in the process of negotiating it, and then the Pillsbury development came in with a much higher number, and
yep.
the owner said, I'll take the bigger number.
Right.
You were talking earlier about scenarios of, you know, and Justin, you're concerned about getting ahead of the warrant articles. A number of years ago, probably 15 now, we purchased a piece of land on the north side of the Musquash that we added to it from a family named Burchell. And we did that in 3 phases. So we had a purchase and sale agreement that said we will, and we actually had to go out and get surveys. We bought that 1/3 at a time. And therefore, we didn't lock in our obligation, but we locked them in to sell that land to us if we could raise the money, which fortunately we succeeded in doing. So it can be done that way.
Any other questions? Thank you, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, since my name was invoked and I'm supposed to know something about this, I came back. So the taxpayers went out and voted to buy the land. The taxpayers are expecting relief from the $1.9 million, which you can give. You don't have to go to Superior Court, and you can give tax relief. That's the one thing you can do out of the UFB. So you need to take that into considerations. That's what the taxpayers are looking for. The taxpayers didn't say to you, we wanted you to give it all to conservation. The taxpayers made another decision on another warrant article that they didn't want it all to go to conservation. But you can give $1.9 million in tax relief if you want to.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to old business, website recap. Ms. Hilden.
Can I steal the keyboard and mouse?
Thank you.
Hello, counselors. So I thought I would just come back and speak to you briefly because I did come before you last August in order to start this process. So I thought I would come to you and let you know that for all intents and purposes, we are out of the launch phase and we now have the new website. We came in, we finished it on time. We actually finished it 2 weeks earlier than we were initially projected to. We underwent the transition on April 1st, and we came in on budget. IT, Tom Hodge and I did opt to move over to SSL certificates. So we are spending an additional $178 per year with Civic Plus to provide the security for our 2 additional domains. We decided that during the process because it turned out to be the better option to house them. But other than that, we didn't spend any additional funds. I did want to just make sure everybody knew this one thing about the agendas and minutes, because I have gotten a lot of questions about, well, where are the minutes? Because they used to be in 2 different places. Now the minutes are these little check boxes right here. So for anybody who doesn't know, if you want to go look up your minutes, they're attached to the agenda. And then also, if the media is available, you can click right there. They did not move over the media links. I did this myself the weekend before the launch. So if any are missing, I might have missed a couple here and there. But they are still all available on the web, on the cable access channel. The other thing I wanted to draw people's attention to is this form right here that's still living on the main web page, the Ask Us a Question. If there's anything you can't find, if there's anything that, I need to change that picture out. I'm glad I clicked on there. Still working out a few tiny little bugs there. If there's anything you can't find, if there's anything that you have questions on, if you submit this form, it goes straight to me, and then I distribute it to the relevant department. So you can use it for the website, but you can also use it for something you can't find anything about on the website. I did want to make you all aware, because I've had a couple questions about this. Our contract with Civic Plus was to move over 400 meetings. So 400 meetings worth of agendas and minutes. We paid $4.25 per meeting to move those over. So that's why we capped it at 400. We figured that was a good starting point to get over, and that got us back to 2002. So if you're looking for any documents in terms of agendas and minutes older than 2002, those are going to be uploaded starting probably the first week in April. I'm sorry, first week in May. So I'm going to move them over. All of the records from the old website still exist. They're all saved. Nothing was lost. They just need to be re-uploaded in chunks. And so back when we signed the contract, Tom and I thought about, how many per hour we could do and where that line was between saving money and expediency at launch. And so that's where it landed. So if anybody's looking for anything older than 2022, in the meantime, shoot me an email. If there's something that there's a set of minutes that somebody uses a lot, use that question form and tell me, and I'm happy to prioritize that. But I just wanted to give you all a chance to ask me any questions about the merge and then the migration, and otherwise just let you know that it's done.
Any questions from the council?
Mr. Chair. On our last website, we had on our economic development, or potentially on the home screen as well, a lot of data about the town, demographically, and a lot of statistics about the town, financially, and as well. There were actually items on conservation in there as well. So I was trying to find that.
That was very outdated. So anything that was time sensitive and outdated, Civic Plus wouldn't migrate it. Okay. I know the page you're talking about. Mm-hmm. It hadn't been updated in quite a while, and so rather than migrate out of date information, we decided we were going to start a lot of those things from scratch again on this website. And so it is still something that I'm working and building on. For example,
although I had found it interesting on the economic and planning page, we have a lot of stuff on the airport area design charrettes that got moved on over.
On what?
The airport area design charrettes from 2003.
And it depended on what time. It might depend on what type of document it was too, whether they moved it over or not. There was a different protocol for web pages and for documents.
Okay.
So
it's very educational and very interesting. The airport area design charrettes, if anyone would like to actually go to them for what could have been done for that area. But I just thought it was interesting what got moved or what did not.
And it was, for example, the drop-off center, what it moved over, the 2025 drop-off center document, that didn't make it over. And so that was one of the first things I needed to change. And also I accidentally hid the entire cable website. That was on me. Drew sent me an email and say, hey, people are wondering where we are. Can you fix that? I was like, yes, I can. Sorry. So, it is definitely still, Christine Perez pointed something out to me the other day. I got a call from Peter Curl saying, hey, the fire department's phone number isn't on their page. He was right. It was the town hall phone number. So as I'm getting these, I'm cleaning them up right away. So I really
will
encourage
commend
you to let me know.
for adding on a whole tab for how you can connect to the different sections to watch a lot of our videos either live or from recorded. I think that's a great addition to have to the page.
Yeah, so there's the watch tab right at the top. You can, and I added the YouTube on there as well because on the previous website that wasn't really that when that website had been created, that wasn't an emphasis. But now Drew and Aaron are so good at putting the stuff on there that a lot of people stream it live on there. So, but yeah, so like for example, legal notices was a page that Alicia and I worked on today. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Is there a way to put a quicker, easier button up at the top for calendar? And how you have to scroll all the way down?
No, there isn't a way to put the calendar really there isn't really a way to put the calendar at the top. The calendar the structure is to put it at the bottom. That's the one, some of these things a few things are very much fixed, and that's the order on the web page.
Yeah, I was just curious because it was so much easier, but it was just right there.
Yeah, and I get it. Not everything is in the exact same place, but I will say this one does have the option of sorting between meetings, and now events are appearing on here as well. And it's the end of April, so there's no more in there, but you can start seeing the events from different parts of town. And I haven't started putting the events on yet, but community events can go on there as well. So if anybody is still watching this meeting and wants their event on there, just shoot me an email or use that question form to get that to me. And you can subscribe to all of these calendars too. So you can get them, if something goes on it, you can get it immediately sent to you under the Notify Me tab. So if you go to
Now
this...
you have to register for that now, right?
Like
I had to get accepted or something. I can't remember, but I had
So
to do
you can
something.
sign up and customize the website for yourself, or if you just want to use Notify Me, you just put your email address in here.
Okay, and then
So
you
if-
got to click all those.
And then you select which ones you want. Yep. So you can sign up. I left all the agendas on there, the alert centers, the bid posting. Certain calendars are on there. If you want meetings, you just subscribe to town meetings, and we push those notifications out. You can also get text messages as well. So
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Now, Kirsten, is the trades on there for the calendar?
The what?
The
The
trades?
I don't know if the trades one is on there right now or not. It is on the board out there. I know that, but I don't know. I haven't gotten that on there yet, I don't think. But I can push it had a news item on the homepage for a while. I don't know if it came down or not. And bumped the news one. Yeah, so it went out in the news at one point, so it's still there. But
Any other questions? Seeing none, do you want to stay where you are for the next one?
Sure.
The next
Yes,
topic is
absolutely, I do.
Town council public comment rules update. And Dan at the last meeting had a suggestion, and I believe that you and Dan worked together to clear up some of the language.
Yes, he brought it to the acting town manager, who then passed it down to me. It was between Dan and
Yes.
him. I do the keyboard.
Yes. Did anybody have any questions on
What is the
update?
change?
The only, it's not exactly what I wanted.
Okay.
It's where it says citizens should refrain from following. All right, I wanted to put in there using profanity or vulgar language or gestures.
Gotcha. So I can explain why that's not there, because you had voted on that to remove that at the
Right.
last council meeting.
Right.
And so because you had voted to remove it, it was removed. So I put your language back into that line, and if you would like to reintroduce that based with that language, I can put it back in. But you had a vote removing it, so I had to remove it.
Yeah, so my intent was to put that back in there, but using citizens should refrain from the following by, refrain from using profanity, vulgar language, or
So you're
gestures,
making a
but
motion?
still be in there.
Yeah.
I don't know what the discussion is. I mean,
Discussion?
No, I'm in agreement with that.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion? I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion that we put back citizens should refrain from using profanity or vulgar language or gestures. We're not saying it's prohibited, we're saying it's refrain from it, you know? So.
Is there a second?
I think that's.
Second it.
Okay. I heard Sean first, a second
That's
by
fine, I
Sean.
don't care.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Chair votes in the affirmative.
I'll add it back in and then post the new version.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
It's all good. Well, if it breaks,
Next is the approval of minutes, and we had a suggestion by Deb that on the counselor rules that we updated and put the counselor that suggested the rule, suggested the not the rule, suggested
Goals.
The goals, and
It just lists them all. It doesn't say who did what or what.
just by basically putting who set each goal.
Sorry, me again.
Yeah.
So would you like them amended and brought back to you at the next meeting then?
Unless the council feels like we can just say that to amend that and then vote on it. What do you just want to do?
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I've got other amendments too.
Okay, what do you have, Dan?
Under public comment, when Dennis Martin talked about the RSAs, and I thank the acting town manager, not Kelly Karen, for having the code enforcement officer pick up the political signs. And then under
Dan, excuse me, can you repeat that again? I didn't catch you.
Hold on, Dan, you see the numbers right here?
Okay,
They
number
refer to the line, so if you tell
No.
them the line number. it
number
helps.
44, Kim.
Okay.
I thanked, it says K. Karen. It was actually you that I thanked for having the code enforcement officer pick up the political signs.
Okay.
That we talked about. Under old business 81, town council rules of order, there's no mention of the wording that was changed. Because we had changed some
Do the
wording.
line number.
Line 84 to 87. There's nothing there. It just says that they discussed adding a second public comment. They discussed allowing the chair to assign counselors to committees. There was, on adopting the rules of order under the organization, and we had voted on that, was that the council will meet at the organizational meeting and select committees to serve on. But that was never put in there.
Dan, are you suggesting that on the minutes there was something left out that you would like to be re-entered?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be.
If-
I'm drawing a blank on the lady's name that
Beth
we have.
Pengali. So if I
Thank
may
you.
ask you a favor, I can amend them. I can amend Beth's minutes, but I would ask that perhaps that these are a little bit more substantive changes than are easily discussed here. So if I could ask you a favor, Mr. Chair, can I get those changes emailed to me?
Absolutely.
And then I can incorporate them and bring them to the next meeting?
Yeah,
I think that's probably because the number of them, it's just going to be easier to do, and it does
Agreed.
involve some judgment calls.
Yep.
So, thank you.
So we will put that vote off to the next meeting.
So Dan, that was 44 through 48, somewhere around there. Is that what you said?
There was 40, line 44.
Okay.
Instead of K. Karen, it should be your name there.
Got it.
And then under old business, I'll email Kristen.
Any other updates for the minutes? We're good? Okay. Liaison reports.
Budget committee had Kirsten did a wonderful presentation on night 1A for the budget committee. Also in attendance was Liz Thomas, who had invited the library trustees to come, but she had attended there as well.
I had a meeting with the airport director. Things are going, internal airport director. They have not selected a new one yet. Tom Meliforn is the acting director. Things are going quite well at the airport, and they're in their development of their next master plan for the airport for their 10-year plan for 2026. And as well, I was at the Londonderry Arts Council last Thursday. They actually had, not last Thursday, it was the Thursday before, sorry. They had a arts cafe at the senior center. Hopefully people were able to join. Unfortunately, my son was quite busy with soccer and napping, so I was not able to get on over there. But they also have another event coming up on May 17th called Wild Apples Launch Party, where they are launching a literary magazine. They actually had quite a few responses. I believe it was certainly way over 100 responses to be part of the literary magazine, ranging from poems to short stories, fictional and non-fictional. There's even a song that's in there. So they're going to be having an event at the Morrison House at the barn. They're going to be having a party for a launch party of it. People can buy the literary magazine if they'd like to, and I think they're hoping to get a few out to the councilors and to the town manager if they can. And then as well, they'll be having Concert in the Common starting up in June. And certainly, they're looking forward to a large season this year. And one of the big names that they were able to get last year is coming back this year, the band named Couch. And so they're looking forward to a good season.
Excellent. Any other updates?
Yeah, I had 2 meetings.
Okay.
I think it was the very first recreation meeting I've ever gone to since I've been in Londonderry. So that was exciting. I was totally amazed at the amazing things they do with the kids in the town and all the different programs that I had no clue that they did. And the volunteerism there is astounding. It's just really stellar to see people, really caring about the kids' feels and what they're doing and being active in that whole thing, and to know that volunteerism is still alive and well. I did ask them for a couple of their top 5 wish lists that they would like to see happen in town. So they just got that back to me. So I'm kind of looking at things that they may not have budgeted for, but really, really need to find some innovative ways to help them fund those projects. But they do an amazing job. The other meeting I had was Beautify Londonderry. That was just before this meeting. And they, as well, are in full gear right now with their roadside cleanup. And you can go to the library and pick up some utensils in which you can do this in your neighborhood, have a group do it. So that was kind of a great idea. That was John that came up with that idea. John had asked me, as well as the whole Beautify Londonderry committee, they wanted to know if they could put, like they have in the library, an area in this little lobby here, small area, some of the bags and little cloth things and gloves that people could just come in and get. John said he would come in and give a presentation on May 5th if you'd like. He'd actually show you the display, and he did say that the group would come by and make sure that it wasn't messy and that it was fully stocked. So that was something he had asked, and so I'm putting it out there. They only want it out there from now till October, and it would disappear after that till next year. So it would be there from now to the end of their spring and fall cleanup to be able for people to get bags to help with the little problem so that Dave's team can pick those things up on the side of the road. So
I know in the
those are
past, John had asked to be on the second floor. So maybe he can
He
meet with
just
the
thought it would
town
be
with the
better
county.
because this way people can just come in and go. Like, if you don't know where to go in the town hall, you see the key lock on the door, you might be apprehensive to try to open it. It was just being more convenient. He said it was small and it wouldn't take up a lot of space.
I know he made it himself.
Yeah, so he wanted to display it. He didn't have it with them tonight, but he said May 5th if that was okay
yeah,
to come
let's-
in and show us. So that was all I had.
I have one update also. Conservation Commission today at Scobie Pond now has a boat launch.
Yep.
It was installed today. So,
Pretty amazing.
town manager report.
So first off, I just want to say congratulations on a well-deserved award from the Londonderry Fire Department. It was all over social media. The recognition just goes to exemplify as the acting fire chief pointed out, the exemplary performance of LFD. Also like to point out the fact that this website, Kirsten Hilderman has been working exponentially on getting this thing up to speed. What you may not know is while Kirsten was on vacation doing a grand tour of Europe, she still found time, which is beyond me, to do some of this work. Yet again, this only echoes, I think, what Councilor Bouchard said in the beginning about the great employees that we have here. Again, on vacation, doing this stuff. Most people don't work on vacation. Good employees do. However, there is going to be ups and downs with this, so everybody just needs to please be patient. Get familiar with it. It's like anything else that we get when it's new. A new car, a new cell phone. We don't like it. We love the old thing. Why do we change it? And then after a couple of weeks, it's great. So kudos to Kirsten and Tom and other support staff that's helped you out with this. Great work. Thank you. Unfortunately, I gave a brief last week or 2 weeks ago about a potential engineering hire. Unfortunately, the candidate that we had interviewed prior to the second interview took a job somewhere else. So back to the drawing board. It's frustrating. I know I spoke to several counselors about what we're going to do. We're going to keep on plugging away and working with the assistant town manager and John Trottier and Tara. We've got a plan that we hope will work. Also, starting on May 5th, the new executive assistant will be starting here. We'll try to have her at that next town council meeting to do a quick intro so you all can be familiar with who she is. And then on that same night, I'm going to introduce to you a promotion that we made at the police department and 2 new hires, one of a police officer and the other of a paralegal. Other than that, that's all I have for town hall related business.
Thank you, sir. Assistant Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a reminder that the planning board is having a work session this Thursday. They have invited the council to participate in that meeting, should you choose to. And just want to clarify something that I've seen circulating about one of the items under the zoning amendments, and that's the legislative updates. That's in respect to the 2024 legislative updates that we are required to make. So again, that's not in relation to the proposed bills as they are proposed. So just wanted to clarify that point. But again, the councils have been invited to that meeting. It's been noticed as such, and there will be an opportunity for public input.
Thank you.
Kelly, time?
7 p.m. in this room.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add one more item for the airport, for anyone who doesn't know, for flying between April 18th to May 2nd, you can actually enjoy, if you're staying there for 5 days to 6 days, you will get 1 day free of parking. If you are parking at the parking garage for 7+ days, you will get 2 free days of parking.
Nice. Excellent.
Any particular reason, or?
For vacation school week.
Okay.
Excellent. Is there any public comment? Tony, you didn't speak, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tony DeFrancesco, 1 Cheshire. I'd like to echo the acting town manager's comments about the new website. We are several years into this century, and it's nice to have a website that's going to echo that. And not only that, but I see a pathway into the future with this new website. It is new. There is a learning curve to it, but it's for even for somebody with my color hair, it was a very short, no pun intended, learning curve. So it really has a lot of bells and whistles in it that once the residents get the hang of it, it really is going to be remarkable. So I commend anybody that was involved in it, because it really is. It took me by surprise the first time I saw it, and it took me a nanosecond to find the GIS, which is what I was looking for, because it was in a different spot, and we're all creatures of habit, right? But it was very, very quick, and I think it's pretty special, personally. I'd like to commend you all for the changes that you made tonight to your meeting rules. I think it was the right thing to do. And it was more about public decency than it was anything else. And I commend you for that. And thank you, especially where we have a lot of small children. Tonight there was one that are in attendance at these meetings, and so I commend you for that. I did have a few comments about the Sanborn Road thing. And initially, I didn't, and then my brain was spinning backwards as usual. But in March, the voter taxpayers, right? And last meeting I was here, I talked about what happened there. They voted down extra patrol officers. Enough said. But that said, I think the most rational, one person's opinion, thing to try is a crossing guard there. I think it just kind of makes sense. All roads are dangerous. A kid got hit at the high school this fall by a car. Things happen, but I think it's a logical next step. That said, I think before you did that, you should petition the state for additional signage on. It's 28, right? It's 28 in both directions, announcing the fact of a caution, crossing guard ahead would be one sign. Slower speed signs during the two critical times a day. Pick a time slot, but morning. Speed limit reduced to whatever time it is, 8 to 9 in the morning, 8:15 to 9:00, whatever it is. And then again, another slot in the afternoon. And I think that will help mitigate some of it, on the Mammoth Road one, which is a dangerous road. The people that do all the work just left from the police department, but the police chief will tell us.
Wow.
We'll tell you. We'll tell you that even on Mammoth Road, this car's going 60 miles an hour all the time. 50 is not uncommon, right? That part of 28, yeah, people go fast, but on the Mammoth Road, they put cones out during those two critical times a day, right? So there's ways to make it work, and there's ways to try things. I think Councilor Paul found something on that interweb thing that may or may not work, but it certainly is worth looking at. It's certainly worth investigating. And I think you add all these things together, and you may come up with a solution that's cheaper, easier, whatever it takes. And keep in mind, again, I'm going to say it again, the voters said no to 2 more patrol people. A lot to do. Thank you so much for what you do, and thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony. Anybody else? Kevin?
Thank you, Kevin Smith, 6 King Philip Drive. I had gone home. I was watching the meeting, and I saw I saw the discussion on the conservation land from Gilcrest, and then I remembered, they got public comment at the end now, so I figured I'd come back. I was a little confused because there should be no ambiguity to this. The voters were very clear. There were 2 warrant articles, one to purchase the land, and the second one to appropriate how much money was going to go to the Conservation Commission. Those are the warrant articles the voters voted on. So this board does not have the authority to decide other than what the voters voted on. Now, can this board vote at the next March election to put a ballot on the warrant article to put more money into the Conservation Commission? Yes, it can. But I would remind the board, as Justin did, that this revenue has already been booked for this fiscal year. So if you're going to do that, you're now taking $1.9 million out of the undesignated fund balance to put in the conservation fund. And while none of you, except for Councilor Paul, were on the council at the time, the discussion at that time was very clear. The conservation would get a portion of this. The rest would go to tax relief for the taxpayers in town. So I just caution you before you do anything besides what was discussed and voted on at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else for public comment?
Yeah, I'd like to say something, Ron.
Okay, go ahead.
As a counselor that was there, I did vote against the whole thing. I believed that we were supposed to have council and conservation was supposed to be part of the negotiation, which did not happen. So really the voters didn't have a choice. It was what we gave them is how the money was going to be divvied up. And I think that is kind of the confusion, because the initial vote to even buy the property was to buy and preserve buildable land. And that's what the people said, okay, here's the money, Town of Londonderry, to save this land. And that's what they wanted to do. Now, flash forward so many years, we're selling the land back to them. People are losing their development land. To Ted's point, it was a perfect place. I think Tom Estee said it. Perfect place. You could have had your pickleball court there. You could have had a splash pad there because it was water. You could have put a lot of things into that area.
I was not referring to that property.
Well, I'm just, no, but when Ted said, not Ted, Tom said to you, that would have been a perfect
Thank you.
area for that land's use. And it could have been the dog park that everybody said they wanted. But instead, it's now these condos, and that's fine. That's what happened. I can't undo the past. But moving forward, in my mind, as one counselor, after listening to what we've heard over and over again, that this is one of the few tools that we have left in our toolbox to save a little bit more of what makes Londonderry great, having more destination spots, having more land that we can use. Like you said, Ted, looking at an inventory of our property and see what we can do for the people of this town. So I think that, you know, the people should vote on how this money gets allocated. And yeah, it might hurt things, but to me, it shouldn't have been spent to begin with right away. But I couldn't change that, and I did.
The money has not been spent.
I know, but he's saying that it's already allocated.
No.
That's what Kevin just said. It's already allocated, and that it would affect the services.
No.
That was my question to Justin. It's not allocated, correct?
No,
But
it's not.
that's what he just said.
It's not
It's listed as revenue
appropriated.
for this year. It goes into the unassigned fund balance in
So it's not allocated.
But
That's-
did he
I
not say
allocated,
that, or
yes.
am I?
It is not
He
allocated.
did not say
Okay,
That's what he said.
that is what he said, right? Thank you.
Can we get an update as far as what's going on with the Lions Hall? Can we get
Oh,
them to
yeah.
come in? And I know last year it went on and went on, more towards the budget time. I think right now we have plenty of time maybe to listen to them and see what's going on. I don't know what people are thinking about that.
That's Dave.
Right now, we are in public comment.
Right.
Yeah.
Good, sir.
John Farrell, 4 Hancock Drive. Kevin Smith said it was allocated to the undesignated fund balance. That's where it's allocated for come July 1st. History lesson on the property. Back in 2006, Tom Estee was wrong. We didn't resell it to the owner. The owner was Elmer Pease. Elmer Pease has passed away. So we didn't resell it to him. Sold to the Massetti Development Company. They were not the original owners. The land was acquired by special election. We had to go to Superior Court. We paid the $2.6 million to acquire the land and prevent almost 1,000 dwellings being built, and negotiated that Nutfield, or whatever they call it down there, the 55 and older, would be built. That's the actual history on the land. If you actually look deeply into the easements, any easement can be challenged and brought to the ballot. Sunnycrest can get a whole bunch of people together and say, you know what? We want to sell our land. We're taking it to the voters. And the voters can say, go ahead and sell your land. Get educated. That's what I was saying to you earlier. Don't believe the information you're getting up here. Do your homework. Go deep into it. I know it because I was there. I was on the planning board. Conservation Commission has no authority to negotiate. Zero. Only you have authority to negotiate. Don't believe the misinformation.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else for public comment? Dave?
Dave Wally, Public Works Director. Just to give you a quick
very quick update on the Alliance Hall. So on April 7th, the structural engineers came back to get under the building. They did some of the interior stuff back in early February. They returned April 7th. They did the one underneath. We actually did have to cut a hole in the floor to do some of their analysis. So they're just now it's just a matter of bringing all the data together and compiling everything, putting it into a report. Once we receive that, we'll get it to the committee, and then pleasure of the board.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Reverend Morrison, Meeting House.
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question for
Good.
Dave.
Yeah.
I believe back in the fall, we had actually approved this other company from New Hampshire to go through and do their study of the property and what it would actually take to do. Do
That's
you know
correct.
where that may stand?
That is this company.
That is that company?
Yeah,
Okay, I thought you were referring to another company. Thank you.
they subbed out to a sub to do that.
Thank you.
But they're doing the overall and then pulling all the information together to put the report back to us.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else with public comment? Seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Ted,
Second.
second by Sean. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you, everyone.